Here you are. Maybe it's a Sunday morning. The sun slips in softly through the window, painting quiet shapes across the floor. The smell of fresh coffee in the air. You wrap your hands around a warm mug, and for a moment, everything feels in its right place. The silence, the stillness, that sense of peace. It feels good, doesn't it? Comfortable, safe. We spend our whole lives chasing these little pockets of calm. We work, we grind, we build walls, physical and mental, to protect this sanctuary. But let me ask you something, and I need you to be real with yourself in this silence that connects us right now. Have you ever stopped to think about the cost of that peace? Not the price of your coffee or your rent, the real cost, the human cost? What if the peace you're feeling isn't the absence of war, but the product of a war you just can't see? A war fought on faraway streets, in air-conditioned boardrooms, in spreadsheets, and in hearts that we're taught not to feel anymore. I'll be honest, for a long time, I hid inside that same peace. The peace of not knowing, the peace of scrolling past the news about a housing protest just a few miles from my home, the peace of buying something new without asking how it was made or who paid the price to bring it to me. It's a seductive peace because it lets us off the hook. It whispers in our ear, the world's too complicated, you can't carry it all. And that's true. But what if it's not about carrying the weight, but about realizing we're the ones putting it on someone else's shoulders? What if our comfort is the final product of an equation where, on the other side, there's unrest, despair, and suffering, written off as inevitable? The truth, the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud, is that our peace is a luxury, and like every luxury, it's built on a foundation we'd rather not look at. It's the fancy rooftop of a building whose foundation is poured in inequality, indifference, and silent dehumanization. That's why I created this space, not to hand you answers, but to ask the questions we've all been trained to swallow. If you believe these truths need to be said, that the dirt hiding under power and comfort has to be dragged into the light, then I'm asking you, subscribe, hit that like button. Not for me, not for some algorithm, but as a small, quiet act of rebellion. Do it to give me the strength to keep pulling off these masks, one by one, even when it hurts. The peace we're sold is an illusion, a peace bought with the currency of silence. And silence, as we'll discover together, is the most subtle form of violence. Think about our cities. In America, it couldn't be clearer. Glass skyscrapers, monuments to capital, rise just a few blocks away from homeless encampments. That's not an accident, that's design, the architecture of indifference. We've built spaces where wealth and misery coexist, but never touch. The guy in the high-rise parks in his private garage, takes his private elevator, and looks out over the city, from above, a collection of lights, not lives. The person on the street becomes part of the scenery, a problem to be managed, not a human being to be cared for. We've gotten so used to this picture that it doesn't even shock us anymore. And that right there, that numbness, is the first symptom of the disease. When injustice blends into the background, our humanity starts to erode. The peace of the man in the penthouse depends on his ability not to see, not to feel, the suffering literally at his doorstep. It's a peace that demands a kind of willful blindness, and this logic doesn't stop at city limits. It bleeds into every part of our lives. It's in the grocery store, on that shelf stacked high with colorful, endless choices. We feel a kind of peace knowing we have access to all of it. But trace just one product. Take an avocado. For it to land in your hand perfectly ripe, in many parts of the world, whole communities lose access to water, diverted to irrigate export crops. Small farmers get pushed off their land. Our healthy choice in the produce aisle might be the final chapter of a family's despair, a family we'll never meet. This isn't about blaming you for eating an avocado. It's an invitation to see that the system was built to hide those connections. The price tag doesn't show the environmental cost, the social cost, the human cost. The peace we feel filling up our cart is a peace subsidized by someone else's invisibility. And then there's work, our jobs. How many of us have sat in a meeting where a mass layoff was announced under the euphemism, restructuring to optimize efficiency? Nobody in that room feels like a killer of futures. The CEO's staring at charts. HR is just following protocol. The rest of us, those who stay, feel a cocktail of relief and guilt, but quickly convince ourselves it's just business. We dehumanize the laid-off coworker. He's not John anymore, the guy with a kid in college. He's a head count, a number, a cost to be cut. The peace and stability of the company, the calm of the shareholders, is secured through this tiny act of symbolic violence, repeated millions of times every single day. The machine of capitalism doesn't need monsters. It just needs normal people willing to do their jobs without asking too many questions, willing to accept the peace they're handed without looking at what was destroyed to make it. If you've made it this far, if you're still listening, it's because you feel that dissonance. It's because the peace you were sold never felt complete. And I want to thank you for that. for having the courage to sit with the discomfort. Take a second right now and tell me in the comments, when was the first time you felt your comfort, your calm, came with a hidden price tag, a memory, an image, a moment? Your story matters because it proves we're not alone in this feeling. And if what I'm saying resonates with you, if you feel like this is a conversation that has to keep going, then consider subscribing and hitting like. Not to beat the algorithm, but to build a community of people who refuse to accept silent peace. That refusal is everything, because the system is an expert at making us feel isolated. It sells us the idea of meritocracy. If you're doing well, it's because you earned it. If someone else is struggling, it's because they didn't try hard enough. It's a brilliant lie, a lie that turns systemic failure into personal blame. And by individualizing the blame, it destroys solidarity. If someone else's poverty is their fault, then my peace has nothing to do with it. I can enjoy my success guilt-free. It's the perfect absolution. And we buy it every day. We buy it when we judge the unemployed, when we criminalize the poor, when we swallow the story that life has winners and losers, as if it were a fair game, when really, some start with every piece on the board and others aren't even invited to play. Now, take that logic to its most extreme conclusion: foreign policy. The peace a nation like the United States projects onto the world. Too often, that peace is enforced through war. Now, we call it intervention, peacekeeping mission, defending democracy. We scrub the language clean to cover actions that are anything but. The calm we enjoy, the financial stability we rely on, is often tied directly to the destabilization of another country, to the extraction of its resources, to propping up a government that plays by our rules. A drone piloted thousands of miles away by a young man sitting in an air-conditioned room in the Nevada desert brings real destruction, kills real people. But to him, and to us, it's a video game. That physical and emotional distance is the most powerful tool in maintaining this armed peace. We don't see the blood, we don't hear the screams. We just read headlines assuring us the strike was surgical and necessary for our safety. Once again, our peace is bought with the invisibility of someone else's suffering, a suffering we've already labeled threat, enemy, collateral damage. And when it's not through force, it's through consumption. We live in the era of endless entertainment, the peace of never having to sit with our own thoughts, our own emptiness. At the first sign of boredom or unease, we've got a screen to dive into, an endless stream of content, products, distractions. This peace, this anesthesia, has its price too. It makes us passive. An entertained citizen is a citizen who doesn't question. A satisfied consumer doesn't rebel. The system doesn't want you finding peace inside yourself. It wants you to buy peace, to consume it in the form of shows, new clothes, a newer phone. Because real inner peace is revolutionary. A person at peace with themselves doesn't need endless consumption to fill a void. And a person who stops consuming endlessly starts questioning the system built on that consumption. Our constant distraction, our hunt for the next dopamine hit, is the guarantee of their peace. The peace of those who profit off our emptiness, our anxiety. They're not selling products, they're selling temporary relief. And we get hooked, mistaking that relief for happiness, mistaking it for peace. Every click, every swipe, every hour lost to an endless feed is a vote of confidence in the system that keeps us docile, distracted, and above all, alone in our search for the silence they stole from us. Real silence. The silence that isn't an absence of noise, but the presence of meaning. So here we are at the end of this conversation, back where we started, that cup of coffee, that fleeting peace. But now, the silence feels different, doesn't it? Heavier, weighted with the voices that had to be silenced so it could exist. The truth, the epic, uncomfortable conclusion, is this. The peace our society sells us isn't peace at all. It's a truce. The uneasy calm between battles. The silence of a graveyard. Real peace is in the absence of conflict. Real peace is the presence of justice. And justice is loud. Justice is messy. Justice demands we give up our convenient calm and look another human being in the eye, not as a problem, but as an equal. The great trap is that we've been made to believe we're powerless, that the system is too big, but its strength isn't in armies or corporations. Its strength is in our silent consent, in our daily participation. It's in our turning away, in our comfort seeking, in our refusal to connect the dots. We're not just victims of the system. We are in so many ways its accomplices. We're the beneficiaries of this silent peace. And this isn't about guilt, because guilt paralyzes. This is about responsibility. Responsibility frees, because the moment we understand our role in the equation, we take back our power. The power to make different choices. The power to shop with awareness. The power to treat a homeless person like a person. The power to question the official story. The power to use our voice, our vote, our energy to build bridges instead of walls. The real transformation isn't of the world, it's of us. from passive consumer to active citizen, from indifferent bystander to agent of change, however small. True peace won't be found in the silence of your apartment. It'll be built in the noise of empathy, in the chaos of solidarity, in the hard, messy fight for a world where one person's calm no longer demands another person's suffering. So next time you feel that calm, that quiet, I beg you, question it. Ask yourself, who's paying for this? In the silence you hear, is it real peace or just the muffled sound of a scream you've been taught not to hear? If this message stirred something in you, don't just let it fade. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. But more than that, leave a comment. Tell me about the first time you realized your comfort might come at a hidden cost. Your story matters. Together, we can build a community that refuses to settle for silence, that chooses justice over convenience and connection over indifference. This isn't just about growing a channel, it's about growing a movement. So add your voice. Let's make some noise.